If your wife has told you she's done, she feels nothing for you, or you're walking on eggshells every single day wondering if today's the day that she finally leaves, you need to just stop what you're doing and watch this entire video because in the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how men just like you have saved marriages that everybody said were over. Marriages where the wife had completely checked out, where there was no intimacy, where therapy failed, where nothing seemed to work. And I'm going to prove to you that it is not about fixing her. It's not about begging her to come back. It's not about becoming some watered down version of yourself, contrary to what you may have heard. It's about something completely different that most marriage advice gets absolutely wrong. So before we go any further, let me be clear about who this is for and who it's not for. This is if your wife is emotionally shut down or ready to leave. If you're tired of walking on eggshells and you want to lead from a position of strength, love, and freedom. If you value working on yourself, not just endlessly talking about problems. If you want simple, effective systems that are based on what actually works, not on theory. And if you recognize the importance of taking radical responsibility of your own actions, your own thoughts, beliefs, behaviors, and getting results. This is not for you. If you're brand new to a relationship and just starting to have issues, if you love complex therapy sessions and want to endlessly analyze every feeling without actually working towards a transformation, if you're not ready to put in the work for you, your future, and your family, because it does require work, and especially if you're just looking for somebody to tell you that it is all her fault and that women are all inherently the problem in every single aspect of relationships. So, if the first list describes you, keep watching. If not, this is probably not going to help you anyway. So, if you're still here, you're probably in one of the worst places that a man can be. You come home from work every day to a house that feels like a battlefield. Your wife maybe barely even makes eye contact with you, and every conversation feels like you're walking through a minefield. And you've probably, or at least you think you have, tried everything, right? You've read the books, you've suggested therapy, maybe you've even went. You've tried being the nice guy, doing more around the house, buying flowers, planning date nights, expensive vacations and gifts. And what happened? Nothing. Or maybe worse, she even somehow got more distant. So you're lying awake at night wondering if this is it. If the woman you married, the mother of your kids, is just gone. And the worst part, you feel like you're losing your mind because everyone keeps telling you to communicate better or give her space. But here's what nobody's telling you, and that is that it is crucial that you are not the problem, you are the solution. So, my name is Matt Enns. I am the founder of Sovereign Man Coaching, and I want to tell you something, um, which is that I've been exactly where you are right now. I was a successful financial advisor making multiple six figures, but my marriage was absolutely falling apart. For many years, I'd been drinking to the point of being drunk. And I mean every day, not most days. I was angry, I was resentful, and I blamed Whitney for pretty much everything that was wrong in our relationship and our lives. I wasn't present with her. I did not even know what emotional safety was, and I definitely wasn't leading in the relationship. And Whitney finally had enough. At the time, I was furious at her for this, but looking back, I absolutely get it. And she moved out with our kids across the country and said that I could follow her if I wanted. And I did. I moved across the country. I rebuilt my business. And we spent the next year basically just fighting and being miserable. So eventually I told her that I was done. And I said, look, I can't do this anymore. If you're willing to work on this marriage, call me. And she did not call. So we separated. And we ended up living separately for 6 months, barely talking. I absolutely thought it was over. She was not willing to work on it at all. But during that separation, I did a lot of work on myself and I stopped blaming her and I started taking full ownership of what was my part. I thought it'd be more effective. Hey, I can only change me. Let's just say I look at myself as the sole person who's responsible for the falling apart of our marriage, which obviously I wasn't. But that gave me a very radical insight that I did not have before. And I became a very different man, grounded, present, steady, sure of myself, confident. So eventually I finally reached out to her and I laid it all on the table. And I said, look, here's everything that I got wrong. I've really looked at it. I deeply understand it now. I actually get why you feel the way you do. And to my surprise, she agreed to give it another shot. Um, I did not know all the things that I know now when we got back together. So the first year was pretty rough. But Something deep had changed in me, and I was showing up radically different in every area of my life, not just my marriage. And I was hoping our marriage would get to a place where it was not a disaster anymore, where it was at least just okay and functional. I wasn't even aiming at anything past that. But our marriage didn't just heal, it became incredible, amazing, unbelievable. We were deep, we were intimate, we were passionate. Um, and this was way more than I literally could have imagined would have been possible for me. And so skipping the long story, I launched this company to share what I'd learned with other men. I sold my finance company, which I was right on the verge of making a whole pile of money from these projects I was working on. I sold my business because I felt I needed to share this. And since then, I've helped way over 500 men save their marriages that everybody else told them were over. Men whose wives had already been talking to divorce lawyers or served them divorce papers. Many men whose therapists had told them, this marriage will not work. You guys should get separated. You guys should get divorced. And all these men thought it was too late. Like Carson, who went from having an actual restraining order against him to reconnecting with his wife. She ended her affair and then having a marriage that they now describe as the envy of all of our friends. Like Jose, whose wife had moved out and got in her own place, signed a lease. And after just 1 week of him learning how to be the lighthouse, how to stay calm and grounded, she asked to come home and she broke her lease. And here's what I discovered that changed my life, that changed all these hundreds of men's lives. Your wife does not need you to be perfect. She needs you to be steady, to be reliable. Not steady like being passive, steady like a man who knows who he is and doesn't need her approval to feel good about himself. A man who can stay calm in the face of a feminine emotional storm. A man who is not intimidated by that. A man who is not reactive to that. A man who leads from presence and not from neediness. And there's something interesting I've noticed working with, at this point, around 1,000 men. Many of them initially want to involve their wife in the process of change. They think, well, I should discuss this with her first. She should know what I'm working on. It takes two to make it work. But here's what's really fascinating. The men who get the fastest results are the ones who simply work on themselves and become transformed men. They don't announce it. They don't ask for permission. They start showing up as the man that their wife fell in love with, and then some. Think about it for a second. When you first pursued her, did you ask her permission to be confident? When you decided to provide for your family, did you need approval from her in order to work hard? When you proposed, did you committee test that decision? Of course not. You led from your core, what you believed in, right? You could feel that there was more and you went for it. But somewhere in marriage, especially modern marriages, especially in 2025, many men start seeking approval for anything, and this pattern builds in the relationship. And that's when something shifts in how she sees you and in how you see yourself, which is even worse. But instead of the decisive man that she married, she starts seeing somebody who needs her to manage his choices. So if your wife is emotionally checked out, she's not looking for another conversation about her feelings. In her world, you have already proven to her that that is not possible, right? What she's looking for is to feel something different with you. She wants to experience you. The man who can stay grounded when everything else around him, including her, is chaotic. She doesn't need words. She needs to feel that you are steady, like a lighthouse during a storm. And in my experience, the most powerful changes happen quietly. When you start regulating your own emotions instead of absorbing hers, when you start leading with calm strength instead of reactive energy, when you become the kind of man she can trust to handle whatever comes your way, I call this the grounded masculine framework, and it is 3 core pillars. The first pillar is what I call emotional sovereignty, and this is not about controlling her emotions. It's about controlling and regulating yours. When she's testing you, you stay grounded. You become the rock she can crash against without you crumbling or reacting or storming back. Your clarity builds her trust and it builds your confidence. Your consistency builds her safety. Pillar number 2, understanding women. None of our fathers taught us how the hell to actually understand a woman. And when you do this and you stop tolerating disrespect from her, not with anger, but with calm, loving strength, something amazing shifts in the dynamic of the relationship. She starts to see you as a man again, not a roommate, not an employee, not a child. And you do not need her permission to lead. You need your own presence and your own confidence. The third pillar that we work on is masculine polarity. Your wife married you because you were different from her. When you reclaim that masculine energy, your purpose, your strength, your leadership, her feminine energy naturally responds almost always without her even noticing in the beginning. So we have to stop over explaining and start embodying this kind of change. And again, in modern therapy, a lot of therapists are unwilling to even talk about how men and women are different. And so many relationship books are not aimed at an actually realistic explanation of how men and women are different. They might explain the differences to attack men, they might explain the differences to attack women, but there's not this just objective, hey, this is how women are, this is how men are, this is how you need to interact, these are the roles you need to play in a relationship, this is how to manage the differences between you. And that's the third pillar, masculine polarity. So let me share some quick results before we get into the actual coaching process itself of men who've applied the system. Right? We have Brandt, who went from constant divorce threats and emotional whiplash, to say the very least, to peace, affection, and planning an incredible vacation in just one honest conversation without needing to explain, justify, or defend himself, because those are almost always the wrong move. Or like Jason, who went from doing everything right and still being told, like so many men that I work with, you don't do enough, in spite of himself working himself to the bone, and he genuinely did. He went from that to his wife bragging about him to her friends for the first time in 15 years of marriage, with the small added bonus of finally feeling respected and appreciated. And he did this by doing less and leading better. If you feel like so many men do, that you're overworking and that you're not getting appreciation, the solution is probably doing less, and we'll get into that a little bit. We can also talk about Matt, who went from feeling completely disconnected and hopeless in his marriage to sending me a message on New Year's Day which said, "My wife and I are getting back together." He was feeling alive again, all within, that should say, half a year, just by showing up as the man that he was meant to be. These are not special guys. They are regular men who learned how to be attractive to their wives, again, not through manipulation and tricks, because I despise that. These are not tips and tricks and hacks, but by actually becoming the grounded, powerful men that their wives fell in love with in the first place. So this is why I have created the Lighthouse Method. This is a complete system that teaches you everything you need to become emotionally unshakable and win your life back. This is not therapy. I want to repeat that. This is not therapy. And as I'll explain, this is deeply based on the principles of therapy, but it is not therapy. This is not communication techniques. This is an actual proven system, step by step, for becoming a man that your wife can't resist, which is why we get so many guys from other programs that don't work who join our program and see success very quickly. So here's what you're going to get. You get the complete grounded masculine framework. You get a step-by-step modules on emotional leadership, and we have a lot of them for every single scenario you can possibly imagine. We teach you how to set boundaries that create attraction, not resentment, that make her feel safe, not controlled. We tell you the exact words to use during difficult conversations. We tell you how to handle her tests and when to recognize what are tests, and how to handle her emotional outbursts in a way that leads to intimacy, and I mean intimacy in the bedroom rather than emotional disconnection. And it's amazing, quick side note here, how many guys, when I tell them how to handle these emotional outbursts, they feel intimidated, they don't know if they're going to be able to do it. And after 2 or 3 of them, they tell me, hey, I'm excited for the next time it happens, because the last couple of times it's led to a lot of fun in the bedroom afterwards. Because if you know how to hit these women where they need it in terms of that emotional support and that emotional safety, man, do things turn around. So I hope you, like so many guys that I work with, learn to look forward to those emotional outbursts, because you know how to handle them, get through them quickly, and get to a really good place. You will also learn how to take full accountability without becoming a doormat. And you get daily group calls, daily group coaching calls every day of the week, Monday through Friday. And you get a private community of men going through the exact same journey as you. So we're going to talk here about the 8 stages of relationship connection. So we start with everybody with stage 1 right here. And that is the understanding women core concepts, because again, we don't actually understand how women work. So we tend to think that they are malfunctioning men rather than normal women. We expect from them the same logic that we expect from men. We expect the same accountability from men. And if you expect the same logic and accountability from your wife that you expect from your buddies, you are going to have a very frustrating marriage, let me tell you. So you have to understand how women are different so that you can actually apply a solution to the problem instead of endlessly having the same problems, not knowing why it gets anywhere, looking at your wife and going, man, she seems smart most of the time, but right now I can't understand how she could be so illogical and so crazy. That will not happen to you anymore with the first stage one alone. Next thing we do is, with that understanding, we decode her disconnect. What went wrong in the relationship that led you to where you are? What has she been trying to tell you using feminine communication that does not get through to the male brain that has caused her to pull back from you? And once you understand this, then you go, that's why she's pulled back. And usually when guys go through this, it feels like a bit of a gut punch because they go, holy shit, I actually understand why she's upset. I thought she was insane. I thought she was wrong about everything. Now that I understand how women work, I actually understand why she's done all these things that seemed inexplicable and crazy to me before. I get it now. It's a beautiful process. Number 3 is we communicate your new understanding. You go back to her and you can now say, hey, look, I get it. And if you nail that and you can actually communicate to her, hey, I get XYZ, I get ABC, I understand why you've pulled back, I understand why you felt unsafe, why you felt disconnected, why you felt unattracted, whatever it is, I understand all these things now. And she goes, holy crap, for the first time after years of begging and pleading and trying to get him to see this, he finally gets it. The door to healing opens. So we want to get you to stage 3 within the first 2 weeks. If it takes 30 to 60 days, that's okay. We want to get you there, and we usually can in 2 weeks, to where that door to healing, boom, opens, and now she's willing to work on the relationship. Even if she's told you 1,000 times, like all of our clients, that it's over, it's always been bad, it's never going to be good, we've never had good sex, we've always been disconnected, I've never had this problem with anybody except for you, and you'll understand what all of those mean after you go through stage 1. But that's going to open the door to healing. Then from there, we work on establishing a deeper level of emotional safety. You want to create a new baseline in the relationship. You want to change the emotional tone, the emotional atmosphere of the home, because if you do that, she will respond to that. Women are very adaptive to their emotional environments. If you create a new emotional environment, she will, without trying, without reading relationship books, without getting a coach, she will adapt to that new emotional environment, and you will begin to get the wife that you've always wanted. We stay in this stage for a few weeks typically. Once we've really established that emotional safety, we look to rebuild trust. And that's basically just letting her test her way through the phases of rebuilding trust so that she deeply, on a cellular level, trusts you, that she wants to give you her total heart, her whole mind, her whole body, all of it. And then from there, once we've established that emotional safety, once we've rebuilt trust and connection, then we're in a very good position to start setting boundaries. If you try to set boundaries too soon, like I'm sure some of you have, when there is no trust and there's no safety, she is going to view your boundaries as controlling. And if you try to set boundaries when she's got one foot out the door, the other foot is going to go out the door. If you rebuild trust and you establish emotional safety and then set boundaries, those boundaries, although she might resist them at first, those boundaries are going to make her feel safer. They're going to make her feel way more attracted to you. And you cannot make her feel attracted until you've learned to set boundaries. So we learn to set healthy boundaries that she recognizes are coming from the wise king, not the angry little boy. And she will respect those boundaries, and they will again make her feel safer and more attracted to you. She will like the boundaries, believe it or not. Step 7, we get into creating magnetic attraction. This is where we really emphasize the polarity in the relationship. We learn how to flirt with somebody that you've been with for 10 or 20 years. We learn how to create tension in the relationship in a good way. We learn what it is to actually make this radical sense of her wanting to move towards you, intimacy, all of that fun stuff. And then the last stage, typically guys are 2-3 months into the program at this point, sometimes 5-6 months into the program. We're just working on optimizing at that point. We want to deepen this trust, deepen this connection, and we are not here to give you a Band-Aid and send you on your way, which is why our program is way more comprehensive and it's longer than almost any other program you'll find anywhere, because we don't want to put a Band-Aid on it. We want to get you all the way there. And this stage here, this stage takes the rest of your marriage, because you want to be always deepening trust and always deepening connection. And we want to show you how to do that, not when you're in the earlier stages of trying to repair the marriage, but when you're already at an amazing place. Your wife is already bragging to all of her friends about what an amazing man you are, and she can't stop telling you what an amazing man you are. But we want to, from there, deepen that trust even further, deepen that connection even further, and get you to something that you would genuinely consider the marriage of your dreams. Now, the next one, and I'm going to go through this quickly, I founded a system of masculine development, how to really transform the masculine psyche, called the Archetypal Integration and Depth Coaching System. And a big part of what we focus on this program is not just that relationship piece that I showed you, but the masculine journey. And I'm not going to go into this in a lot of depth, but if you're familiar with masculine psychological work, you'll be, or just psychology in general, you'll be familiar with figures like Carl Jung, Eric Neumann, James Hillman, Robert Moore, Douglas Gillette, Viktor Frankl, Rollo May, on and on and on. And I pull in things from primatology, the study of apes. I pull in things from NLP, from ancient esoteric practices, from Christian practices, and I've put all of this together into a system that will radically transform who you are as a man. And I'm going to go through this quite quickly. We've got an insane amount of content on this process, step by step, what you need to do to comprehensively change who you are as a man. I believe it is the most comprehensive men's self-development program out there. It's the most comprehensive one I've ever seen. The results we get with clients are insane. So the first thing we do is we want to awaken your spirit. We want to start this hero's journey for you. And we do, again, a ton of different processes in each of these sections. I'm just going to highlight some of them. One of the things we do here is we create a vision of heaven and hell that is very specifically emotionally impactful. We want to create a vision of heaven for you that when you read it, when you think about it, you feel emotional excitement. It's vivid. We also want to do this with a vision of hell. The more vivid you can make it, the more it sinks into your subconscious mind. And if you want to actually manifest something, manifest transformation in the world, you don't just focus on the good all the time like a lot of people tell you. Men are inherently dark on some level. We have demons in us. We have monsters. You have to be aware of that aspect of yourself. And so you have the vision of heaven and hell. You hold those in tension. That is the tension in both ends of the bow that allows you to fire the arrow, the tension between the good and the bad. Then we go into the descent, and this is, you might have heard of the term shadow work. There's a lot of shadow work in this. We want to basically excavate your subconscious mind and get rid of everything that you've been hiding from yourself, all of the pain you're carrying, the resentment you're carrying, so that you can build something new in its place. So we address your core wounds, mother-father wounds, trauma work, facing the shadow, really deep, really comprehensive excavating of everything in your soul that shouldn't be there, that's getting in your way. Then we move on to self-integration, which is daily habits, purpose. I've coached some very, very famous people in the performance space with incredible results, and this is where we start dialing in the habits that align with the man that you actually want to be. We also do some really deep work on the masculine archetypes, not limited to, but focusing on king, warrior, magician, lover, because you have to activate all of those in order to tap into the full power of the masculine psyche. Then we move on to crowning the king, which is where we really fully step into your inner authority and your confidence. So many of my clients, as they're going through this phase, they say, people are asking me for advice at work that I've worked with for years that never paid attention to me. A fire alarm went off in Starbucks and everybody looked at me to figure out what to do. You begin to have that king energy in you that people are magnetically attracted to. It's beautiful. We also work on your values, your vision for life, your integrity here, because we want you to be fully aligned with the man that you can be. And again, we're working through this on every level, from the depths of your subconscious mind to your habits, to your beliefs, all of it. And then from there, we go into expanding the kingdom. What legacy do you want to leave for your family in your career? How do we align with that? What greater impact do you have on the world? What do you think the world needs more of? Is it more technology? Is it a better connection to nature? Is it more freedom? Is it more security? Everybody thinks the world needs something different. And until you know that, until you know your purpose on a very deep level, you can't tap into that. So we will help you find all of that so you can cement in the legacy that you want to leave behind. So when you're 80 years old, and on your deathbed, you do not have regrets. So that is an overview of the relationship process we go through, also the process we go through with you as a man. Again, insanely comprehensive. Our results are crazy, which is why we get so many people that have done 10, 20 years of therapy, that have been through 3, 4, 5 other coaching programs, and yet they get results with us very, very quickly. So all that said, I want to say time is not on your side in your marriage, because every day you wait, she's going to get more distant. She's building walls, and she's convincing herself that this is just how it feels to be married to you. Right? So you got to move quickly on this, and you want to get the results like somebody like Jack, right? He went from walking on eggshells and having constant tension to his wife actually apologizing and admitting things that had been good, things had been good between them in just a few weeks. And again, he didn't need to fix her. He didn't need to change her. He didn't need to explain himself. He made these changes. She responded in kind. And Jack, I remember this like most of my clients, where he said, hey, I understand this whole women and accountability thing and how you think, we can get to a place where she'll apologize. I want you to know, in 17 years of marriage, she's never apologized to me once. If you think my wife's going to apologize, you don't know her. 2 weeks later, she was apologizing to him for the things that she'd done to negatively impact their relationship. We've got James, who hadn't had intimacy with his wife in over 6 months, very, very common. And 4 days after shifting how he acted, he came into the group and he was all excited. He said, she initiated intimacy, and he was all excited. Everyone was cheering for him. It was a beautiful moment. And we've had that with clients over and over and over again. We have Tom, whose wife had been moved out. I think this was like September. And after his growth and his leadership, she decided to come back. And she officially moved back in. And she said almost right away, I'm excited and I feel like our relationship will continue to grow. We've also got Eli, who went from his wife planning to move out and shutting down emotionally in a big way. It was really sad what happened with Eli. And very quickly he was hearing, I love you every day. And again, he thought he would never get there. And this just happened within a matter of days of him joining the program. And again, like always, without defending himself or trying to talk her out of her feelings or trying to convince her why she would change. So if you are ready to stop making excuses and start making changes, if you're ready to stop being right and start being attractive, if you're ready to take full accountability for saving your marriage, even when it's not fair, then just go to my Instagram and DM me, own it. That's all. I will personally reply and we can have a conversation there. I would like to hear about what's going on in your marriage and what's stopping you from getting things back on track, what you think is wrong. And if this sounds like something I can help with, and there's a very, very, very high chance that I can, I will help you lay out a roadmap for exactly what you have to do to clear a path to rekindling your marriage.